Stranger Things has been one of my favorite shows since it first came out, and season 4 is quite possibly the best the series has ever been in a lot of ways, but it also shows off the show's weak points way more than the previous years. If you go back to season 1, it is actually crazy how small scale and cozy and tightly written it all feels. The craziest thing that happens is like a car getting flipped over, but season 4 is Hopper fighting a Demogorgon in a Soviet prison, a metalhead doing a Metallica guitar solo on the Upside Down, Joyce hijacking a plane, all of these grotesque deaths, and Argyle. You could argue the show has lost what made itself great, but I'd interpret it more so as a very fascinating natural evolution. If I had to describe season 4 in one sentence, I would say it's too ambitious for its own good, but manages to nail every ambitious thing it tries almost every time. But that's a little vague, so let's jump into the details, starting with the opening episode starts and ends pretty hardcore, and I'm glad they chose to do that. Season 4 is the beginning of the end. It's the Infinity War to Season 5's endgame. It deserves to feel darker, especially since all the characters and fans have grown up. Also, I feel like it was a great way to hook the viewer. The first episode or two of every Stranger Things season is usually just set up where the characters are hanging out in their regular lives. Bookending the first episode with scenes that are very much not that makes you intrigued to see what happens later, more so than any previous year. Also, I just love Eddie's screaming here. It's probably the best scared face of season 4, alongside Will's from the home invasion scene, of course. Even though I feel like the actual California storyline could have been done a bit better, I love the idea of the setting. It addresses the common critique of the show of why don't the characters just move away from Hawkins, and dividing characters naturally always leads to a more compelling story, since unique character combinations are always fun, and it adds more tension to the story since, as Steve said 20 times, we can't just rely on the superhero anymore. The different settings also make the season very eye-popping, since the California deserts contrast with the snow in Russia, which contrasts with the forests in Hawkins. It's not just all forest, which makes the season more visually exciting.
You gotta get us to St. Mary's! I don't think Ray's gonna help that dude, man!
Episode 1 was introducing a lot of characters, and I was thinking to myself, oh my god, the show already has a problem with too many characters. What are the Duffer Brothers doing? But I soon learned that they strategically did it as a bit of world building. All of these new faces really fleshed out the new high school setting. A lot of them were just there to die later on to set up the mystery, rest in peace McLovin. And aside from Eddie, even the more notable characters like Jason are merely just backdrops to the story, adding a bit of conflict but not necessarily someone the audience is meant to fall in love with. To be honest, a lot of the high school stuff is seemingly very cheesy and Riverdale, but I'd like to think it was done intentionally. I feel like the show's sort of parodying / paying homage to those 80s high school movie cliches. Also, I feel if the bullies in California weren't so cartoonishly mean, then the audience wouldn't sympathize with Eleven during this moment.
Angela!
However, I feel some of the high school cliches were done a little too heavy-handedly, like when Lucas straight up said, I want to be a popular kid, not a stupid nerd like you guys. That moment lacked a bit of subtlety, I think. I did, however, like the sequence where the basketball game was intercut with the Dungeons and Dragons game. I thought that was really cool. And I'm glad one of the jocks was wearing a male crop top in the background of one of the scenes. It's a forgotten niche of 80s fashion, and I'm glad it got the representation it deserved. When I first saw that each episode was an hour and 15 minutes, I was a little concerned. I knew the Duffer Brothers would have a motive to make the episode longer, it wouldn't just be for nothing, but the show worked as a 50-minute episode thing. I worried whether adding that extra length would hurt the series. However, it was paced really well, and I feel like some of the episodes could have been longer, especially the early ones. There's certain scenes, particularly with the Hawkins gang, that progress unnaturally fast, and weirdly, I feel like adding 5 to 10 extra minutes to these episodes could have improved them. I noticed that this season is really proficient at genre blending. It's like 3 movies rolled into one. There's a stoner road trip comedy, there's a spy action comedy, and then there's just Scooby-Doo really. And even though all of these work, I feel like the Hawkins gang kind of carries. All of the most likable characters are together, getting the most screen time and servicing the plot the most. It just makes me feel bad for the other storylines.
Like a normal old clock.
Why is this wizard obsessed with clocks? Maybe he's like a clockmaker or something?
Think you cracked the case, Steve?
I feel like the writers sort of wrote themselves into a corner by introducing the Russians. It just kind of feels like filler and it doesn't really go anywhere major. It does give the show some much needed action. It has a lot of emotional weight, and there's a lot of fun characters in it like Enzo and Murray and Yuri, but it is just so stupid. The amount of plot armor that Hopper has is wild. His foot is meant to be in pain but he's able to run around like it's nothing. That paranoid mum from season 1 is hijacking planes now. Murray coincidentally looks kind of like Yuri, so he pretends to be him to break into the prison. It's just so dumb. This season has a lot of strange coincidences I noticed, like how Joyce goes on her crazy adventure at the same time as the kids go on their crazy adventure, and neither of them are aware about what each other are doing. It's just out of this world stupid, but whatever. To be fair, the majority of 80s action movies are just as stupid, if not stupider, than this Russian plotline, so I guess you could write it off as a homage if you wish.
Oh, Jesus. Hey. Not in a church.
The California gang are sort of the inverse of the Hawkins gang. It's all of the least developed characters having little screen time servicing the plot not that much. Jonathan, Will, and Mike were all very major in the early seasons, but ever since season 3 the writers don't really know what to do with them, which is unfortunate since they are some of the best actors on the show. Putting all the generally weaker characters together does force the writers to actually do something with them. However, they still manage not to do that. You don't get enough time with them to latch onto their dynamics, their banter, their conflict, whatever, and the plot they're servicing isn't as engaging as the other storylines. Their whole thing is trying to find Eleven, but the viewers already know where Eleven is, so the mystery is gone. That's like if the season started with the reveal of Vecna being one, but you still had to wait 7 episodes to watch the characters figure it out. But don't get me wrong, I still had fun watching their scenes. Some things I liked about it were the desert vibes. It was nice seeing Susie do stuff with the gang in person. The scenes at her home were great, and all of the California stuff is pretty light-hearted. It gives the season some much needed humor. I don't know how to feel about Argyle though. I feel like a major character entirely being there for comedic relief in a mystery drama show sort of sticks out like a sore thumb, especially if you find their comedic relief hit or miss like I do. But that's just me. Even though some characters are utilized better than others, it is mind-boggling how much the writers managed to achieve with the restrictions they gave themselves. I mean, the show has like 20 main characters and they managed to get all of them involved with the plot, and they managed to give them all some unique arc and cool moment. It is crazy. This is what I mean when I say the show's too ambitious for its own good. I am not envious of the writers at all. They have too many spinning plates to worry about. My favorite moment of the California plotline is this really cool long take that happened when their home was being invaded, and the reason I bring it up now is because it occurred in one of the best episodes of the show, Dear Billy, which I want to elaborate on. There's no two ways about it. The final 15 minutes of this episode is a masterclass in suspense building. We've already seen 2 people die to Vecna, and the characters still have no idea how to stop him. The viewers have no idea how to stop him. So when this happens, everyone is thinking to themselves, God damn it, she's dead. Especially since the whole episode revolved around Max kind of saying her final goodbyes to everyone. Luckily, Dustin gets into contact with the girls, who made their revelation about the music just in time, so he gets Kate Bush on for Max. And I'd like to say, perfect song choice. It's so powerful and emotional. Running Up That Hill works very nicely with Max running against the odds here, but also it reflects her internal feeling that overcoming her alienation and mourning is a next to impossible feat. This is further accentuated by her wanting to make a deal with God to get her out of the pain. Also, this isn't the original meaning of the lyric, but I think within the scene the line of getting to swap our places may refer to how Max wishes she was in the body of someone far less hurt than her, or it could potentially link to how she wishes she was the dead one, mainly because she can't forgive herself for wishing death upon her brother, as we learn later on. Vecna always feeds into this, being like, I've been inside your brain, I know that deep down you want to die. But then the power of music makes her remember all the good times she's had with her loved ones. She realizes that no matter how isolated and depressed and misunderstood she feels, people around her still love her, even if it doesn't always feel like that. These are the people who get you through it. No matter how hard your life is, it's worth living because of these memories, these experiences, these people. Thankfully, Max has one last shot to stay alive, a metaphorical run up that hill. She narrowly managed to avoid the falling debris and then falls into the real world into Lucas's arms. The scene is more than just a dramatic spectacle. It's a representation of struggles we've all gone through. It made me like Max's character more. The scene is a real testament to how the Duffer Brothers have made us care about the show's relationships, and I may or may not have cried 10 plus times while rewatching the scene over and over. I cannot confirm or deny. You guys can theorize about whether I did in the comments. Speaking of Lucas, I'm glad he actually got to do stuff this time around, but I was maybe hoping for a little more, just because season 1 was very Mike focused, season 2 was very Will focused, and season 3 was very Dustin focused. It would only be fair to make season 4 Lucas focused. And while out of the original kids, he's probably the most important one here, he's not the main character of the season, which is fine, you know, whatever. People hate on Jason, which makes sense because he is an antagonist. However, I like him because from a storytelling standpoint, he throws some interesting wrenches into the works, and I just find him so funny. First, he uses the trauma of Hawkins to motivate a high school basketball team, and then later uses the fear of the devil to motivate 80s small-town American Christians to hunt down the guy he doesn't like. Do people not see the comedy in that? Also, that is 100% something that would have happened in real life. As I said earlier, this season is eerily similar to Scooby Scooby-Doo in a lot of ways.
Upside down! Shaggy Rogers, you're a genius!
Like, huh?
It's not up, it's down! The gate is down!
And it got me thinking, the perfect 2020s live-action Scooby gang is in this show. Steve is Fred, Nancy is Daphne, Dustin can be Velma, and even though Eddie's character is probably the most like Shaggy, by default Jonathan is Shaggy since Argyle is so obviously Scooby. One thing that got undeniably better every season is the technical stuff. Every scene just looks so good, from the lighting to the color palettes to the color grade. The sound is so immersive as well, and there's so many cool cuts and interesting camera moments. It's a sight to behold. I'm generally not a fan of when Stranger Things focuses on like the lab stuff and Eleven's backstory and whatnot, because I personally don't love watching child abuse, but I think at the tail end of season 4 it was the most compelling it's ever been. They really explore Eleven's dark, complex and layered dynamic with Dr. Brenner, which I find really interesting. She has a close connection with him and sees him like family to some degree, yet she still recognizes that he's far from a good guy. But we learn that he's not an outright antagonist either. In this season he's fighting on the side of good, but he goes about it in quite a questionable way. I don't know, I just love the depth of it all, and I think his death was handled pretty well. The other things that I liked about the storyline is how beautifully it crescendoed towards an unbelievable plot twist at the end of episode 7. It was paced so perfectly, it connected everything up so well, it managed to build tension and convey information in such a streamlined, not too on the nose, not too subtle way. It is wild. Previously, whenever the Duffer Brothers said they had the whole show planned out from the start, I thought to myself, yeah, right. But after that ending, I take it all back. These guys are geniuses, I trust them with my life. Stranger Things is one of the greatest TV shows of all time, and we're not even done with the season yet. Also, Vecna is a goated antagonist. The show needed a monster who had some form of a personal connection to our heroes, which Vecna is and some. I love how they handled the idea of Vecna attacking people in their minds. There's so many cool sequences built around that gimmick. It's very much Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a fun switch up for the show. I respect how much of a conscious effort Stranger Things puts into trying a different type of horror each year. I kind of saw the twist coming that Vecna created the Mind Flayer and it wasn't the other way around, but whatever. If I had to describe the finale of season 4 in 3 words, I would probably say
Most metal!
it's just so epic and cool and heartfelt. I cried like 6 times. It was pretty much relentless crying. Like as soon as I stopped crying at one scene, another came which managed to excrete twice the tears from my face.
I want to die, I'm not ready.
You're not gonna die. Please just hang on.
I want to go on, I don't want to.
You're not gonna die. Just hang on.
One of the reasons this episode works so well is because it takes its time and makes you care by having so many cute, personal, heart-to-heart scenes. I mean, there's this one, and 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 I could keep going. There's no point in having action if you don't care about the characters it's happening to. But speaking of not caring, I do not care about the Jonathan, Nancy, Steve love triangle. Even though they're really trying to give Nancy and Steve cute scenes, I don't think they have that much chemistry, at least compared to prime Nancy and Jonathan from season 2, who have the most chemistry. But I'm not team Jonathan either, since their relationship is not the same as it was then. Gun to my head, if I had to say who should end up with who, I would say that I'd like to see Jonathan with Steve. Also, rest in peace Eddie. I kind of knew that he'd maybe die just because it would make sense for his arc, and because every single year the show kills off the new, lovable, wholesome character. But his death still greatly affected my soul. I can't help but think it was a little forced though. Like, I know there was a reason for him going back out there, but if you asked me to tell you why exactly he did, I would struggle to think of what to say. There needed to be a more explicit exchange, like, if somebody doesn't go out there now, then this will happen, and that will ruin the plan. And Eddie's like, fine, I'll go out there. That being said, Eddie was the MVP of that finale. I loved the Metallica scene and I loved his dynamic with Dustin. It's impressive that 4 seasons deep, the Duffer Brothers are still able to make unique and compelling characters. Now that I think about it, he's probably in my top 5 favorite people on the show. Some other notable stuff in this episode were things like Argyle being more likable to me. I found it funny that at the pizza place there was sort of an Argyle doppelganger, and I like how they showed some respect to pineapple on pizza. The Hopper and Joyce romance was cool. Robin seemingly won over Vicky. How fun. Semi-controversially though, I don't love Robin in this season. I find her a bit corny and annoying at points, but it's not that major, she's still fine. That one joke straight up tackled a child, that was peak. Even though it felt a little weird coming out of a character who's so mid this season, I did enjoy Mike's speech about keep fighting to 11. It really ties together this season's theme of keep running towards the light, don't let your inner demons win. If you find that positivity and love within yourself, then you can overcome anything, etc, etc. Also, Max died but got revived, sort sort of. Bit of a strange writing choice, but probably was done on purpose for something that will happen in season 5. I like how when she was dying, she was saying that she's too young to die, which sort of completes her arc in contrast to how she was wishing death upon herself previously. It would have been nice at the end to see people reading the letters she wrote them, but you know, there were like 10 letters, so that would have been hard to fit in. Maybe just don't set that up if you aren't going to pay it off. Or maybe they're saving it for season 5, I don't know. Lots of people didn't enjoy the 2 days later ending because of stuff like this. Questions come up like, what happened to Murray and Enzo? Why don't we see anyone react to Eddie's death other than Dustin? The episode is already over 2 hours long. They can't really fit 20 more minutes of ending into it and still keep it well paced. I don't know, this is what I'm talking about. The crazier the show gets, the more little issues like this start cropping up, but who cares? I may as well talk about that ending. I'm not one to enjoy theorizing, but here's my predictions for season 5. Eleven and Steve are going to die. Sorry to say. The Upside Down being stuck in 1983 will obviously have some importance. I don't know whether it will be like time travel. I feel like it may just be a piece of the mystery that we don't fully comprehend yet. The time got stuck when Will entered it, not when anyone else entered it. So I feel like Will be really significant next year. His neck tingling can't be all that he has to offer. I feel like he's a bigger part of the puzzle than that. Apparently there's going to be a time jump. Some people are saying, ooh, it's gonna be a 90s season. I don't think so. The 80s vibes are so integral to the show that I think it will probably be 88 or 89, just because that would be senior year of high school for the kids. After senior year, people always go their separate ways, so it would be like a natural endpoint for the whole show. I feel like it would either be right at the end of senior year in summer 89, so it really feels like an ending, or it will be Christmas 88 to make it go full circle since season 1 was set during Christmas as well. Obviously, Vecna will return like Voldemort in some new form. Some people think he will appear in Max's combed brain. Sure, go for it. My brother thinks Vecna may redeem himself Darth Vader style, but I feel like Vecna's a little serial killer, a bit too far gone. Closer to Palpatine than Vader, but who am I to say? I don't know what to think about the Upside Down seeping into the real world. All I know is that it's gonna be one heck of a final season. With season 4, I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 4.5 out of 5. I feel like this season bites off more than it can chew, which leads to it being the most flawed year of the show, but also leads to it being the coolest, grandest, and darkest one. Is it the worst season? Kind of. Is it the best season? Kind of. I really don't know how I'd rank the Stranger Things seasons. They're all good and flawed in their own ways. Hopefully by the time season 5 comes out, 4 years from now, I would have made up my mind. Anyways, thanks for watching. Goodbye.